your story. This week's Facebook Live is posing the question, is it time for a new story? I'm your hostess, Leslie Karen Hammond, known by many as the Empowering Story Whisperer. And this is a topic that is so important because there may be a story you keep telling yourself that just isn't true. And a lot of times people get stuck in things, and you probably know just as well as I do that when you get into that place of stuckness, fear can creep in, uncertainty, and then it's like the imagination goes completely overboard, and next thing you know, all of these other thoughts or fears hop on the bandwagon and the inner critic starts to take over. And next thing you know, it's like drowning in all kinds of negativity and just beating oneself up, and that is not the healthiest way to be or to live. So today is all about time for a new story. Now, there are always going to be things in life that you experience. Always things that happen, when the crap hits the fan. But what really defines you, is how you take what happens and find the positive spin in it. What can you take out of something and turn it around, learn from it, and move on instead of dwelling? Because ultimately, the longer you dwell, then the more the negativity will just continue to perpetuate. So, for example, there was a time when there was a lot of things going on in my life, and truth be told, I went and I sought the rooms of Al-Anon because I really needed to learn how to deal with being married to an alcoholic at that time. It was completely uncharted territory for me, and I didn't know what to do. I was at my wit's end, and so I found myself going into those rooms, and quite frankly, it did change my life. It got me to look at things from the standpoint of, oh, it's not up to me. Oh, that was my labradorite crystal that kind of fell on the ground. See, isn't it beautiful? In those rooms, I learned that I cannot change another person. It is not my responsibility to change another person. The only person I can work on is me. The only person that I have the power to change is me. So what happened not long after that realization came was the understanding that being in those rooms, although they serve a great purpose for many, for me at that time, it was the same story. The same, because every time, we would go around the table and we would share, I would find that I was stating something very similar. And it didn't take very long for me to realize that it wasn't healthy for me to keep telling that story. I needed other coping mechanisms. And I almost want to say miraculously, but I'm sure that it wasn't miraculous, and I'm sure that it wasn't a coincidence. I was ready, and the opportunity presented itself to me to explore energy work. And that it changed everything. But in relation to this post today, to this session about changing the story, what that did was it invited me to change my story. I was no longer sitting at the table and sharing my tales of woe in a community of people who would get it. For some, that it's a powerful tool and it will serve them well, but I had gotten to the point when that was no longer of service to me. I needed to change the story. I could not keep repeating it because I felt that the more I repeated it, the more I stayed in the energy of the story. So that's really the whole background about why it's time to change the story if you're feeling stuck. Because when we're stuck, we tend to dwell. And we tend to, it's almost as though we're stuck in the mud up to the knees. There's this paralyzation that takes place that inhibits any kind of momentum. It's almost as though carrying the gravity of the world, the weight of the world on one's shoulders does not afford the opportunity to move. And that will just continue to weigh you down, whether it's physically, mentally, emotionally, and especially energetically. The more you talk about something bad that's happened, the more you continue to share a story that, yes, I understand there's a need to get something off your chest, but the more that you stay in the negative, the more you feed the negative. The more you feed it, the longer it stays. The longer it stays, the harder it is to get away from it and to get out of it. And you probably have a friend or a family member who loves to be there for you every time something goes wrong, and they, instead of trying to pull you up and out of it, they may have a tendency to empathize to the point where they're trying to help you justify that you need to stay in that low place for a long time and really stew in it, or to really be resentful, or to try and get revenge, or something along those lines. And what is really important to recognize is how staying in that energy of a negative story is going to drag you down and keep you there. So imagine if something unpleasant happened and you had a teacher or a mentor, or perhaps you were working with a coach of some kind. If you had that type of person in your life that you could go to, they would hear what you had to say, and then they might prompt you to consider what good came out of it. So that could be your starting point, the person that you go to first. And for many of you, that may be the last person you need to go to, because you don't need to go any further. Well, and for some of you, you may have a circle of very intimate friends that you share everything with. So perhaps that friend is who you go to first, and then you go to the coach or the mentor second. And then there's a third circle of people that everyone tends to have, and that may not be people that are your immediate go-tos, but they're people within your family or your circles of influence. And this third degree of relationships, a lot of times we tend to feel guilt if something's happened in our lives and we've shared it with someone who might be in that second tier circle, and someone in the second tier knows someone in the third tier. And so therefore, when you encounter this person in that third grouping, you almost feel guilt that you haven't shared the story with them, or out of this sense of obligation, because you've known them for a long time, you feel compelled to share it with them. So here's the thing. If you share the story much more than 3 times, you are inviting that story to stick around longer. So if you run into a person that's in that third degree of community, then consider twisting the story just a little. Okay, maybe twisting's not the right word, but consider adding an upbeat spin to the story and sharing what you've learned. That way, the person can still be included, and in the process of sharing what you've gone through, you'll be sharing a positive experience that came out of it, and you may even be inspiring this person to take some kind of action in their own life, because we tend to attract the people who are going through similar things that we are. I know you know what I'm talking about. It's, if you're a healer or a coach or a therapist, you may tend to attract clients who are going through something that you still need to work on. It's funny how that happens. And there's no coincidence, it's no synchronicity, it's just, it's an invitation to bring attention, shine that flashlight on something that will help you grow more. So changing the story. Now here's a funny thing. When you do begin to change up your story and you become really conscious of how many times you do tell a story, you will be able to recognize in others, particularly those you're closest to, but you'll begin to see how other people tell their stories, and you'll notice it much more often. It's just like driving a red car. As soon as you get a red car, then all of a sudden you notice every red car on the road, when earlier you never paid any attention to red cars. Well, it's the same principle. So when you make a conscious effort to change the story, give it a positive twist, or you decide to stop telling an unpleasant story, you are empowering instead of disempowering yourself. You are paving the way for positive change. You're paving the way to shift things. You are helping to raise your own vibration, and you're helping to draw to you that which you want, that which you desire, as opposed to that which you don't want. So here's a prime example of that. Have you ever noticed if there's something that you really don't want? Oh, I don't, could be anything. Oh, I don't ever want to get married again. Here's a good example. And then you keep feeding the negativity into that and the energy into keeping it away. Well, guess what will probably happen? Before you know it, and this time frame, it's nothing specific, so it could happen within a matter of weeks, it could happen in a matter of months, years even, but you'll find you end up attracting someone who would be the absolute perfect mate for you. Now, that's an up spin or an upside to attracting things. So let's go to something that's more on the negative. I don't want to get a ticket, or like say if you're driving fast, I don't want to get a ticket, and yet you keep speeding. Or, I don't want to experience so-and-so, telling me any more about this. Whatever the negative thing is that you're trying to keep away, the more that you declare what you don't want, guess what? The more you attract it. So the language that you use, whether it's external dialogue or internal dialogue, is incredibly important. Incredibly important, because dialogue is everything. It's everything. And when you can change the dialogue, you can change your life. I'm sure you've heard that. Change your story, change your life. Well, it's true. It's true. When you switch up the story and you make something positive, you are inviting in more positive. Call it the law of attraction or physics, but I'm certain that there is a science to it. So if you're feeling stuck someplace, like really, really stuck, then there's a few things that you can take a look at. And I'm not going to share with you what they are here, because that's part of the free gift this week, which is how to write a positive mindset script. So there are 3 really easy things to do. So I invite you to go to LeslieKarenHammond.com/11 rewrite history. So again, LeslieKarenHammond.com/11 rewrite history. And there will be some really easy things that you can do to begin to rewrite that script and make it positive. Because I am certain you have amazing work to do here in the world, and you don't have any time to be held back. You don't have any time to swim in that negativity. You need to move through things. More than need, I'm guessing that you want to move through things, because recovery time from something unpleasant, the longer it takes, the more that it takes you away from who you love to be around, the things that you love to do. And I don't know about you, but I will take being in a good mood over being in a bad mood any day of the week. Because when I'm not feeling good and I'm in a bad mood, I tend to notice more lines on my face. My body feels heavier. I tend to eat things that aren't exactly healthy. You know, the comfort foods like potato chips, or, I mean, it's a good thing that we don't keep any cookies or popsicles or candy in the house, because those, you can bet your bottom dollar I'd be going after those. Don't keep chips in the house that often, for that matter. But the more that you're not feeling good, the harder it's going to be to start feeling good again. So I invite you to change the story. And I have to laugh because just yesterday, my husband and I were having a conversation, and he's inviting me to take a look at something in a different way. And okay, so for complete transparency here, I have to put this out there. Otherwise, I mean, what would be the point, right? So I have a tendency to push myself way too hard and to set unrealistic deadlines for things. And, you know, I'm still working on that skill of estimating how long it really takes to do something, because, and this is something I could rewrite myself, is that I tend to believe everything takes longer. Everything takes longer than I think it will. And it's poor planning on my part, and taking a look at the projects and the tasks and all of that, all that a particular project ensues. And when it takes more work to get something accomplished, I don't give myself any slack, and I will tend to put my health and my well-being at risk to compensate for my lack of poor planning. So how does this relate to the conversation yesterday? Well, my dearly beloved pointed out that I tend to, what I just said, I tend to take away from my health, meaning like sleep or taking a little break, and my well-being, to compensate for not planning accordingly, because I get these deadlines in my head. I get so wrapped around the axle that I have to do this. This needs to be accomplished in this particular time frame, that I'll get it done at pretty much all costs. Well, if that only happened once in a while, then maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal, but it tends to be a repeating pattern, and it's not healthy for me. So that is certainly a script that I need to rewrite, because as I say conversing, but as he's making these suggestions to me, I was so resistant. And I was basically fighting him, and it got to one point where I just said, I'm not hearing anything else you're saying. I'm not there yet. I just can't see it. And I don't know how to do that yet. What could I have said instead? I could have said, you've got a good point there. And, I see that needs some work. I am going to make the effort and plan better. Or I will make the effort to honor my body more and take more breaks. Now, here's the funny part about this. Yesterday we had this conversation, and today I woke up not quite feeling 100%. So instead of pushing myself as hard as I originally planned when my head hit the pillow last night, I didn't do that. So the seed he planted, it unconsciously or consciously, it took root and it started to germinate, and I ended up being a little more gentle on myself today. I let a couple things go that I really wanted to do, but they weren't absolutely critical that I do. And you know what? Everything's going to be just fine. So, regardless of how spiritual you are, or how healthy you are, how balanced you feel, how much you love life, there will always be a different way you can tell a story when you go through something unpleasant that will help bring you back on track much faster. I truly hope that there was something in here that spoke to you and you're inspired in some way to start changing up your story. And I would really love for you to share this information, to share these videos and share this page, Healing Through Your Story, with other people who you believe might benefit. And if you're interested in some daily inspiration, there is a Facebook group called Divine by Design. And in fact, today we began a 21-day Grow Your Light challenge. So every day for the next 21 days, there'll be something that you can do in 5 minutes or less, 5 minutes or less, that will help you to grow that amazing, incredible, beautiful light within you that shines ever so brightly when you feed it. Because it's all about growing your light, making an impact, and really showing up in a way that I know you so want to and so deserve to be recognized for. So, to catch the free gift for this week, how to write a positive mindset script, please go to LeslieKarenHammond.com/11 Rewrite History. I really look forward to seeing you next week. Please feel free to put comments below. Lots of love and light to you. And here is to changing up the story and attracting many more positive experiences and people into your life. Lots of love and light. Bye for now.